Good morning. Happy Monday. So today is the start of the first full week of November, and there is so much happening in this month. It seems like at the time of the holidays, we have such dynamic energy that is also happening amongst the planets and in our consciousness as a whole, planetary consciousness, and then certainly in our own individual lives. So I wanted to give you a couple of tips and hints as to what you might be experiencing this week and kind of how to interpret things. So, right, as we walk a spiritual path, as we step into the nature of who we are from the perspective of our soul, and we start consciously co-creating with spirit, what happens is we need to interpret the world through a different lens, right? So we have been interpreting the world and our experiences and the people that we are in relationship with. We interpret it from the lens of what we were taught as children and kind of how our experiences molded us. So there's always this argument of, was I born with it, or did I cultivate it? Is it nurture versus nature, right? And I think it's a little bit of both, in my opinion. And so as we start to embark or take even further steps down the spiritual path, and we want to walk with spirit a little more cohesively, we're called to do is really start to interpreting the world through the lens of a spirituality, or through our spirit guides, or from a slightly different perspective. I love the analogy of the kaleidoscope, right? Because if you ever use the kaleidoscope as a child, it was always fun to just make a small little turn, and all of a sudden we get a completely different geometric structure and a completely different perspective, and oftentimes completely different colors. So it's such a marvelous analogy for now, as we are learning how to navigate all the twists and turns that are coming up around us. And so as November continues to roll forward and we move through very dynamic times, one of the biggest tips and pointers that I want to give to you today is to make sure that you're creating a buffer zone between yourself and everything that's happening around you. So if we're not careful, all the things that are happening around us, and there's a lot of them, those things can create enormous amounts of influence on how we respond, or how we feel, or how we think. And if we allow the outside in to navigate how we feel and how we think, what's going to happen more than likely is that we're going to be in a place of fear. And if we allow fear to be the driver's seat of what we're experiencing, our experiences overall are going to be less than stellar. And so if we can create a buffer zone between ourselves and what's happening in the outside world, oftentimes what we find is that what we really feel deep in our heart, or what we feel inside of ourselves, is a lot less fearful than what the people around, what community is feeling in response to the media or an individual incident. It is important to come together as community, so don't misinterpret what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that right now we're being called to our personal sovereignty more than ever before in probably the history of the planet, believe it or not. And so personal sovereignty means that we know and we understand what it is that is best for us on a personal level. And so creating this buffer zone around us is helpful in understanding what it is that we feel inside and what is true for us and what is aligned with our being, what is best for me in any given particular time, what is best for you. And in today's world where we have this polarity happening, where we have this concept of like, are you on this side or that side? Are you black or are you white? Are you, poor or are you rich? There is a lot of division that is being cultivated in and around us. And so if we look inside of ourselves, I think what we're going to find, or what seems to be true from my perspective, is that we're a lot more neutral, if we're honest with ourselves, than we are polarized. And so if we can connect into the neutrality of what is within us, if we can connect into, what really feels right and is not driven by a fear of what might happen tomorrow, but we're just in this present moment and in this space and safe within our own heart, then what we are going to find is that we can cultivate a lot more tolerance and a lot more understanding and a lot more self-love and self-awareness. And through that self-awareness, we're going to then be able to dismantle what's no longer fitting, because many of us have been navigating by the fear. And so we want to just be aware that right now we're in a very strong period of learning how to come to neutral. We're in a strong period of learning what is important to us, what lights us up, and we are being given enormous opportunities to connect with what lights us up. We can get distracted though, because a lot of times what lights us up when we are looking in the path of transformation or spiritual evolution, we're being called or invited to walk down a different path or experience something different than what we're used to. And so we don't have the instruction booklet to walk down that path. And so what often happens is we dismiss it and we think that it's not the right path, and we instead stay rooted or aligned with what we've always been doing because that's comfortable. And so again, I go back to the beginning statement about creating that buffer zone around yourself, because when we have a little bit of a buffer zone or a bumper, and we're not just absorbing everything as truth that's happening around us or that other people are telling us or that what we're experiencing, and we are spending a little bit of time in solitude, understanding at a deeper level what we're feeling and what our thoughts are. What we're given is this opportunity to say, well, is that still true for me? Is that still what I want and what I'm experiencing? Because when we are transforming, it requires us to stretch outside that comfort zone. And so it can be difficult from time to time to have the discernment or the understanding of what is the true path, what is the true aspect that I'm being called to connect to and walk to, versus what is my normal everyday go-to, right? What is my old set point? So the pups are coming in to say hello. You can see their tails wagging, I think. So I hope that this has helped to give you a little bit of clarity in how you might be challenged in the week ahead, maybe even the 2 weeks ahead, right? We're going to be challenged in ways that are going to question what is our true nature? What are we truly here for? Where does our integrity to ourselves lie? Because we are being, everyone, whether they're consciously on a spiritual path or not, we are being encouraged to really understand what our integrity is and to work from that integrity. And what does that mean? It means, are we walking our talk? are we putting into practice everything that we say we believe in and we say is true? Because the energy is going to amp up as we approach the next couple of weeks, our next full moon. On the day of the full moon, we actually have a partial lunar eclipse as well. And at this time, about 48 hours prior and 48 hours after, we have this enormous push to really get in alignment with our integrity, with our own personal inner truth. And so now we have this opportunity to really, really investigate it and really come to terms with it so that we're ready. And so this is what we're working on this week. So you probably know that I love essential oils. And so 3 essential oils came forward this morning to offer up to you, to use to help navigate this path of coming into our integrity and aligning with it even more fully, coming into that space of neutral and keeping that buffer zone around us. So the first one is DDR Prime. DDR Prime is a transformational blend from doTERRA. Love it. Use it a lot for cellular support, but from an emotional, spiritual standpoint, it really is incredibly powerful and supportive as we are trying to make these transformational shifts in our life, right? Because our thoughts come in, our desires come in, and then we have to take the right action steps that align with those thoughts and desires. And sometimes it's really, really difficult to break away from those patterns and set points that we are conditioned to. DDR Prime can help with that. And then frankincense. Frankincense is just a beautiful resin oil. It's very powerful at supporting the heart and helping us to really trust ourselves and to come into our own truth. So frankincense is a super oil right now to be diffusing or applying topically over the heart, anywhere really. To third eye is great, to really come into our truth and own it. And then ginger. Ginger has actually come up a lot often over the past week or two when I'm working with clients, when I'm working with myself in my own meditation practice. And ginger is known as the oil of empowerment. And it's one of those oils that often creates polarity among people. People either love it or dislike it, so interesting that it's coming up in a time when we're trying to close that gap of polarity, get more rooted in what does it mean to be tolerant, accepting, and kind of neutral. So I think ginger can open up some of those doorways for us there, and also connect us into our powerful truth and help us to walk that walk, right? It's a very strong presence, like that oil has a strong presence to it. And so it, for me, what I find is it can really pull us into the moment, which is often where we need to be, right? We need to learn to be more in the moment. So frankincense, DDR Prime, ginger, heavy hard hitters for the week, very strong, powerful oils. So be brave, be courageous, step into your own empowerment, into your own integrity, and have a wonderful Monday, a beautiful week, and I will see you very soon.